This production comes to you in association with the Bluebell Warrington. Situated in an 18th century building in the town centre and just a 5-minute walk from the HJ Stadium, the Bluebell is the perfect destination for pre- and post-game food and drink. The 2024 Warrington Pub of the Year is now the official home of Super League Raw on Warrington Wolves match days for both home and away supporters. Super League Raw are delighted to have agreed a members-only area, allowing our community to come together to discuss rugby league pre- and post-match. So set your course to the Bluebell Warrington on match days and beyond. You are sure to be greeted with a warm welcome and a cold beer. Super League Raw and the Bluebell, the perfect partnership in enhancing your match day experience. Well, good evening and welcome to Super League Raw Weekly. Great to officially announce our sponsors for 2025 tonight before the show. And as you can see, the man is in the man mountain, no less, in the building that is Eorl Crabtree. Good evening, Earl. How are you?
Good evening. Thanks for having me along, actually. Looking forward. When he said man mountain, I thought he meant Joel. There, sat quietly in the corner. I was a little bit disappointed, actually.
Absolutely. I'd love to see you and Joel in a drinking contest. That man can put him away. Speaking of which, good evening, Mr. Scholes. How are you, sir?
Good evening. Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well indeed. And Mr. Sale, as always, how are you, sir?
I'm brilliant. Good to be doing it on a Friday where we don't have to feel guilty about having a beverage on a Friday night.
We never feel guilty. That's my last bit of admin done on the phone. With these shorter titles, it's becoming more and more problematic. People are starting to come in. Of course, a new night for the show. We'll give them the shout out as we normally do. And there they are. Craig Forth is with us as always. Rebecca Frey is with us. She'll recognise that pub. Danny Harmon, Greg Roach, they're all flying in and they will continue to fly in for this epic night. Rugby League chit chat. As always, there's Paul Kirby and Dort Baker as well. As always, your job, ladies and gentlemen, we say it every single week: like, comment, subscribe. Get on there now. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Let everybody know that you're watching Super League Raw this Friday evening. Lots to get through, as you would expect. Get your comments in the chat. Your shout outs, as always, will come along for the ride. Let's start there. Let's go straight in. Let's have a little chat about latest news that's floating about. And of course, this was announced this week that Brian Noble will return to the Bradford Bulls for the 2025 season, talking up Bradford's chances of returning to Super League. Of course, just a stone's throw away from the Huddersfield Giants. We know there's a very healthy and respectful rivalry there. We'll start with our guest, Earl. Nobby, back in coaching. What's your thoughts with that, Earl?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it gives me nightmares because it takes me back to a past that I want to forget about, which is playing against the Bradford Bulls of the early noughties, walking out against Leslie Vanacola, Tavita Vicona, Big Stuart Field and Joe Vangenaar, Paul Anderson, Jimmy Lowes. Oh, I'm scarred from playing against that Bradford Bulls team. I don't think it'll be quite the same this time, but you can see what they're trying to achieve, can't you? It seems to be a little bit more stability at the moment, get some really good signings over the line as well. And they'll be possibly the favourites for the championship next season. I think the players that they're getting together is really, really impressive for a team that's been in turmoil, a club that's been had its struggles, should I say, over the years. They seem to be in a good place at the moment. It's great to see. And then Nobby, what a guy, what a legend of the sport, and someone I've worked with closely over the years, in the past with BBC and things like that, and also Great Britain. When he dropped me, but I don't hold that against him. It's one of those things. He's an ex-Bobby as well, so he's obviously got his own issues. But no, Nobby's a great person to put back there. I think he's been there for the last couple of years anyway, hasn't he? He's been working sort of in the background there. So for him to step up, it shows what ambition the club has and where they want to get to. So yeah, it's good to see him back.
Yeah, obviously, Steph, we speak quite often about Bradford, the sleeping giant that is Bradford. it's going to be a long, hard way back. But Brian Noble, pretty, talking it up as a real possibility that they will get back to Super League. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, they're a city for a start, aren't they? So we all know that the Leeds Bradford derbies go down in history, don't they, in terms of the crowds they can attract and things like that. So I think Bradford needed someone who ultimately commands respect straight away from the off, and I think that's what Nobby's got all over. Obviously, a lot of history in that club as well, so I'm sure the fans will be overjoyed with that appointment. Obviously the big thing for Bradford, I think, is the stadium, isn't it? The last time I visited there when Lee were in the Championship with them, it was not good, to be polite, in terms of how it had declined. So if they can get some investment in that ground and a winning side on the pitch and get the fans back in, then they've got a chance.
Yeah, it's a big stadium. That to be, I mean, Joel, dare I say it, it's almost as big as yours to be rattling around in when it's not full, mate. It's a big space, isn't it, Odsel?
It is, and especially you're not so close to the pitch either, because you've obviously got the old dirt track in between. So
yeah,
I think what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to really revamp the pitch first of all, and then the stadium, because I'm sure Earl can tell you, he's played on it many times. It's a bit of a bog when it's bad weather in February. So I think they're going to have to put quite a bit of money into the stadium first, and then just hopefully plod along, because if they want to get into Super League, it's not up to standard just yet.
Fair enough. And thanks for clearing that up. I always thought that Earl was on a treadmill when he was at Odsel, but clearly it was just a pitch. That's fair enough. We'll get him in early. Come on, I'm sure he'll get us back there. You see him there. Right,
no, you get him in early doors while you can.
Good man. Peter Gordon, Bradford champs for him next season. That he's a KR fan. Good evening to you, Pete. I hope you thought you well. Right, before we get to the next bit of news, he's now in the chat, and I said I'd do this. Earl, a massive thank you from one of our members. That there on the right hand side is Mark Hill, a Leeds Rhinos fan. That there is his granddad. His granddad is living with dementia. You took the time to sit with them, share some pleasantries. And Mark says that his granddad continues to speak about that to this day. So on behalf of Mark, thank you very much. Really.
Do you know what? That's lovely to see. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt there. It's Magic Weekend. I remember it, honestly. It's I don't think people realise how much it means to the ex-players and players as well. It's not just one-sided, this. I get a lot out of that. And be able to, I'm very respectful of older people as well. I understand dementia, understand mental health as well. And to be able to just put a smile on somebody's face just for a few brief minutes and maybe reminisce a little bit about old players and stuff like that. If I can just get a little bit of something out of them, it gets a lot out of me as well. So this isn't just a one-sided thing. So it's a mutual thank you. So I remember it very well. I was escaping from one of the lounges, actually, from doing a little bit of speaking for the RFL, and I was coming around quite quickly, and they grabbed me, and I went straight over, and I made sure I sat down with them as well, just to get a proper photo, have a little conversation, and so that's one that stands out in my mind as well. So it's thank you from me as well.
No, absolutely fantastic. Craig Forth, quite a few of our carry on also. Loving that, Earl. Loving that. And Mark, you don't need to thank me, mate. That's what this community is all about. Right, let's get back into the news. This is nice. Wigan, we commented on Huddersfield's shirt and Castleford shirts. We said we've had some nice ones. Traditional is what I would say. The Wigan shirt has gone out on social media today. Cherry, white, stripes. What you'd expect, really?
Not enough leopard print for me.
Not enough leopard print for you. Fair enough. Some other announcements. Again, we'll start with the guest, Earl. Announced that Lee Kershaw is off to KR. Now, this is an interesting one. I mean, I thought Lee Kershaw played well for the Broncos last year. I mean, we know they've got Tommy Davis over there for next season, taking over from Ryan Hall. We know that Burgess was in great form, but Lee Kershaw is a very, very good player to be having around that squad, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the game's going a little bit like that as well, because squads need to be smaller, but they also need to have quality within the ranks. And I think more teams are conscious on the way they spend money as well. There's some high-risk players. I think Lee Kershaw, he isn't a high-risk player. he's somebody that will come in and do a great job, no matter what position you do put him. Obviously, you see him on the wing and expect him to play there, but I think he's probably seen as more of a utility as well. There's opportunities for him to play in different positions, and I think he's a perfect sort of squad player, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. He's got an opportunity, though, to step up. He's got pace. He's got some power there as well. He's got some athletic ability. It's just getting those opportunities, and hopefully he'll get them. But what a club to go to, honestly, that they have blown me away this season. They've been absolutely fantastic. And I don't just mean on the field, off the field as well. The way they're moving the club forward, I think a lot of other teams around Super League should be looking at them as an example on how to improve.
Spot on. And Steph, I mean, Warrington today came out and announced their squad numbers early doors. Their kit launch is on bonfire nights, and maybe that's to allow the kids to know of the current squad what their squad players are going to be. I would expect more signings at Warrington, because if not, a couple of people said it doesn't look as strong as it needs to be, especially when you consider KR. I mean, Warrington at the moment are pretty much standing still as a squad. I mean, I know they brought Russell in, but KR is another one that's coming in as well. They're certainly going to have improved next year. I think Warrington probably need a couple more signings, would you say?
Yeah, I think there's a few clubs I think that need a couple more signings, but I think Warrington are building off very, very strong foundations. It's very easy to forget, the season before last, and how disastrous that was for Warrington. I think they've got a really good squad there. I think they could just do with an extra few, but you could say that for most, I think, in Super League at the moment.
Greg Roach asking, how come Earl's got leopard print wallpaper and you've not missed a sale? Hey, nothing wrong with Mr. Roach's eyes, is there? Nothing wrong at all. It's not leopard print, is it?
Hey, what goes on in the bedroom stays in the bedroom.
Don't stand up, Earl. Don't stand up. Whatever you do.
I hope Derek doesn't walk in.
Yeah, dearie me. I don't know. Unbelievable. But yeah, and then last but not least, Joel, Judder Rimbo. That's the way we're going to go until we're told it's a different way. Castleford on the hunt. Of course, Danny Maguire now in the chair. Haka, Papua New Guinean. They seem to be the place to go at the moment for talent in Super League Papua New Guinea. 23 appearances in the Queensland Cup last year, 16 tries, 5 assists, 10 line breaks, 11 off-roads, and a tackle efficiency at 94%. Clearly in the shadow of one Mystery Pape, but by all accounts, he's a handy little player that might add a bit of depth with Liam Horn, in that hooking position.
As it stands, it might be, yeah, but there's no reason why he couldn't overtake or be on par with. The PNG Brotherhood always seemed to be very, very good at playing rugby league, and I think anybody who gets a chance to come over and show what they can do, like Pape, clearly I think they should take it with both hands, and he has done. And it's nice to see. We had Stanley Jean back in the day, and he was unbelievable. So. It's not a new thing, this, is it, about PNG? It's just the clubs haven't really clung on to it until now.
Yeah, they're very, very tough lads, aren't they? There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Carry on in the chat.
In Torn PNG.
Yeah, I mean, you think how many people have signed from Papua New Guinea? No, and actually, it's actually now overtaking Australia as the place where, in terms of our overseas followers, Papua New Guinea now leads Australia in terms of who follows Super League Raw. They've really latched on to our loving for the Papua New Guinea lads. So long may that continue. And any friends of ours from Papua New Guinea, good evening, and we hope you're well. Carry on there saying that Rimbu's a good signing for Cass. Yeah, absolutely. Looks a tidy enough player. I've got to go. Oh, hang on a minute. Everybody just say hello to Natasha Ford. Hello there, Natasha. How are you? Hope you're well. That's a new one on me. So we hope, if you have watched us before, keep getting your comments in the chat. You will get shout outs. We hope you enjoy your night with us. And Dawn Baker, Wigan Warriors fan, she wants them to sign someone. I was listening to another podcast over the course of the last 48 hours, saying that Herbie Farnworth should be looked at for the Wigan Warriors. Can anybody tell me why Herbie would consider going to Wigan from the NRL? Anyone?
I can't see it at the moment. I think more from the money point of view. To bring him over here would cost an absolute fortune when you're already on, spending a lot on Bevan French and players like that. So I think they'd struggle on the cap to get Farnworth.
Where would you play him?
Yeah.
Well, I presume that they replaced Kieran because Wardle's undroppable, isn't he? So
you think so? Unless it comes to England, then he's sort of out of favour in that sense in general. But I just think with that team as well, it's like you are looking. They're the best team by an absolute country mile. I think you don't even need an absolute gun player to make that team improve even more. So obviously Kieran comes out, but I just think you with a Wigan team, they could choose so many players that one person could fit into that slot and they just kill it. It's the culture of the club. They're a winning mentality. I think we get caught up too much with names all the time. Don't get me wrong. I think Herbie's absolutely fantastic, and he was for England at the weekend as well. But I mean, you've got to look at Wigan as a bit of a beast of the way that they play the game, the culture that they've got there, and the way that they play games and win games. I won't be too focused about one individual player trying to steal him from sort of the NRL. There's plenty more to go at, and Wigan. Well, they make good signings, don't they? They're a very smart club.
Absolutely. Right, before we get Earl's view on the first game of the series with Samoa, the double header with Samoa, let's just get into a bit of news just to bring you up to speed. Don't forget, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Right, this is a really, really important night for anybody who's considering becoming a member here at Super League Raw. Whatever you do not buy a membership or any of our tickets, anything like that, through Apple. If you do it through their app, you'll be charged 30% on top for the privilege. Shocking. So please, if you're thinking of becoming a member, do it off the web. You can go through Google Chrome, something like that. You won't get charged that 30%. Same with all the tickets that are coming up. So just please bear that in mind. Android isn't affected, but just bear that in mind. All current members, don't worry about it. You don't have to do anything. You won't be charged any uplift. But if you buy tickets for something, you will. So it's vitally important you do all of that through a web or through an Android. Don't do it through the Apple app. Hopefully that's as clear as mustard. Happy days. Right, at the start of the show, we had our new sponsor for 2025, the Bluebell, as part of our intro, and they have donated, ladies and gentlemen, 2 tickets for an evening with Kevin Sinfield at the Par Hall on the 13th of November. 13th of November, a couple of weeks away. 13th of November, they've donated 2 tickets to Kevin Sinfield. You will be on the guest list. Right. All the members, you don't have to do anything. You're automatically in the draw, and I know who wants to be a part of that draw. But if you're watching us for the first time now, you need to share this episode tonight. You need to go onto our site, find the Kevin Sinfield post on Facebook. You need to go onto YouTube and subscribe, and then you put on the Facebook and the YouTube channel hashtag you can't beat a bit of weekly. You do that, you'll be in the draw. We will be doing the draw for an evening with Kevin Sinfield Tuesday. So Super League Raw Weekly returns to Tuesday night, 8 p.m. next week, where we'll be talking about game number 2 in the series. That's when we will be doing the draw. You've got a chance of being with us to watch an evening with Kevin Sinfield, absolutely free, courtesy of the Bluebell and Super League Raw. What a great competition that one is. It's a freebie. Get yourself in there. Happy days. Myself, Steph, and Joel will be in attendance. Who knows? You may even have a beer with us before the festivities begin. Outstanding.
Even better.
Right. Even better. Yeah, it's worth coming just for that, isn't it? Absolutely. Right. We, of course, spoke on the Final Whistle podcast with the Team Talk members, our thoughts on the first game, England against Samoa. If you haven't watched that, it is available for you to download on Apple, Amazon, and Spotify. Go and have a listen to what we said about the first test match between Samoa and England. But, of course, we haven't heard from Earl. So, Earl, I'll come to you, of course, a man who has played for England. Before we get into the game, though, if I may,
yes,
wonderful scenes, Mikey Lewis. Wonderful scenes. You know, went viral and rightly so. Now, you have faced the Hackers. You have faced Samoa, Tonga, New Zealand in an England shirt. So for all of us people who will never experience it, as a player, you know, staring down the Haka, go on, talk us through it. What's it like?
Well, obviously, I think everyone thinks it's going to be intimidating, but I never found it intimidating in the slightest. And that sounds like disrespectful, but it isn't. It's meant in the most respectful way to whether it be the Kiwis, whether it be Tonga, Samoa. It was more of a respect thing because I'm massively passionate about culture and, the belief in your own country and being very patriotic in that sense. I was an England player, proud to pull on my shirt. They were the enemy. and they're doing this tribal sort of war dance towards you. And I wasn't stood there intimidated. I respected it. And for me, I found it fascinating to have these Kiwis right in front of my face, basically slitting their throats to me. It's like, and then looking around, I've got all my mates there, and we're all like chests out, gunning for it. It's game on, let's have it. It just had this aura about it, the hair stand up on the back of your neck, but it wasn't in intimidation. It was in respect, admiring the whole situation that we found ourselves. I'm massively into embracing, your surroundings and what you're going through. And I wish I'd have done it a bit more as a younger player, embrace the event. You're not here forever. You only get one shot at it. And to stand in front of the Kiwis is one for me, is a highlight of my career, especially when we beat them 24-12 straight after that. So yeah, it's always quite nice to come off the back of facing up to a Haka and getting the W. But I love the Haka. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I thought that was special at the weekend as well. It could have been different. I think it was very close. There's a fine line, and it got to the line. I mean, literally clashing to the line. So very, very impressive, and it made for a great start to the game.
Did that just indicate how much more mature Mikey Lewis is 12 months on?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, it probably does. But I mean, that would suggest that 12 months ago he might have put his nut on him. I don't think he would have done then either. I think he realises the situation, the spectacle that you're in. These Kiwis in your face, it's a great opportunity. He's not daft. Well, he might be a little bit daft, but what a player is, and you need that. I mean, I'm very lucky that I played alongside some great players and some good characters, not so much as someone like Danny Brough, who was one of the hardest guys you'd ever meet in your life, and one of those you follow into battle. He'd be the one at the front, takes his top off, charges in on his own. You're like, mate, wait up. Mike Lewis has got that sort of maverick aura about him as well. And he's got to rein it in at certain points, but it's also what makes him such a good player and a leader on the field. And what does he do later on in the game? Puts himself under the sticks with a try. I thought he was going to walk off like Conor McGregor, and I wish he had done. He's just got that sort of attitude about him. But he did everything right. He stood there, stood his ground, and then he went on and made a difference in the game as well. So that's a testament to his character, and I don't think that's something he's just learned in 12 months. I think it's always been in there. He's just moulding himself now, so it's great to see.
Fantastic. And seeing as though you mentioned your own comrade, Mr. Danny Brough, if you haven't seen it yet, ladies and gentlemen, get yourself over to In Conversation with Aaron Moore. He actually named Danny Brough in England. I won't tell you why he spoke about Danny Brough. You can go and watch the episode to find that one out. But Aaron Moore discussed Danny Brough as part of his In Conversation. If you haven't watched that, that's available for you to watch on our YouTube channel, and it is also available to download as a podcast. Right, back to Earl in terms of England against Samoa. First test, some wonderful tries. Probably not the contest we'd have liked to see in terms of a spectacle. What were your thoughts on the game? Who shone? What did you take away from it?
To be honest with you, I thought England were really good, really solid, very professional performance. Some players that stood out for me, George Williams, he was instrumental in everything they did. I thought Mike Ashton really stood up. He just looked so quick. Darryl Clark in the middle of the field as well. Herbie Farnworth, I thought, was just almost unstoppable at times. The forwards linked up pretty well. And I'm saying all these England players because I really struggle with Samoa. They were very lucky to get into the game at all. An intercept in the back of an error as well. Scored one really good try. Disappointing. I think it got better as it became a little bit more intense later on, when it became a little bit feistier and there's a bit of frustration, and Samoa do what they do best, and get off the line and get those big bodies thrown around a little bit. I thought once they started to get that little bit of a physical mentality, I thought it was harder for England to handle them. But ultimately, England were just far superior, could have won by more, and it just looked good to Samoa, in my opinion. Next game, I think, will be different.
Yeah, we'll get on to that in a bit. We were talking with the Team Talk members on the Final Whistle podcast on Sunday night, and a player that you've omitted there that we talked about at length was Harry Smith. his kicking game, his game management. Now, there was a big debate. Should it have been Lewis? Should Mikey Lewis have started? We were arguing that of the halfbacks, it's a shootout between Williams and Smith. You couldn't drop Harry Smith because of his kicking game. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree and say, no, Lewis and Williams could be a partnership?
They definitely could be a partnership, without a doubt. But they're two very similar players for me. That's why Harry Smith and George Williams works. You've got the creative threat in George Williams, and Harry Smith is just the leader around the field. Gets you in different places of the field, kicks perfectly every time. I omitted Harry Smith because I don't think, for me, in the game, he did anything that particularly stood out, which is any different to what he does week in, week out at Wigan. He's such a solid, rounded player that anybody would have as their starting 7 in the team. George Williams gets the accolades because he makes the breaks on the edges, which is created by the space, which is in the middle of the field by Harry Smith and the forwards. So, he's not somebody that should be overlooked. And then I think the right decision then is to bring on someone like Mikey Lewis, who's got a little bit of injection of pace when there's a tiring defence. And it's just tactics. That's the way I'd play it. And you can't have two similar positions. 6 and 7 can't be the same type of player. That's where you get your issues. You see it over clubs as well, where you get two players who are the star players fighting against each other. It doesn't work, and that's why they work so well together.
Spot on. Yeah, that's pretty much where we went with it. Just in terms of before the game, we were amazed that Junior Nsemba was not in the starting 13, Young Player of the Year this year. Were you surprised that he didn't go? I mean, we'll get on to game 2 a bit later. It looks as though he might get a shot this week, but were you surprised he wasn't in game 1?
Yes, I was. Yeah, it's quite simple. He is incredible for a younger lad coming in. Very raw still, but playing in that team. And again, I don't want to sound disrespectful. I think he's got a lot more to learn skill-wise as well. And obviously, in the final, he took a massive collision, which there's question marks on whether he should have probably come back on the field as well. But what ability that lad has, and to do that in the first year and a half, couple of years of being where he is unreal. Where's he going to get to? That's my next question. But I think Sean Wayne's got his the way he looks at it. He's got a structure to the way he plays his team. He likes the dynamics of the team to be a certain way, and he has faith in different players as well. So I think his time will come. Hopefully now he gets an opportunity, and I'm pretty sure he'll well, I've got no doubt he'll play really well. He's unbelievably solid.
Yeah, he's a class player, isn't he? Obviously, do you watch much NRL?
Not if I can help it. No,
you're more. So
no,
obviously,
no, sorry. Again, it's more time. Life gets in the way, unfortunately. I see glimpses of it, and sometimes think, I wish our sport in this country could replicate some of the things they do, especially with the crowds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's not something I've ever got into. I've always been British Rugby League, if I'm being honest with you.
So in that respect then, for Herbie Farnworth, you wouldn't have seen much of him at the Broncos or the Dolphins then in the last couple of years. So, seeing him for England against Samoa and the game he had, Dally M winner, Centre of the Year over in Australia. What a player this kid is.
Yeah, it was quite clear to see that he was a different level, just like a level above the players around him, in the sense that he could create what he created. He's got that pace, that energy, the awareness. And like I say about coming back over to Wigan, as you alluded to earlier, if he's that good in the NRL, why would he be even interested? And what is there to gain out of that? I mean, the money, the proportions that they're getting paid is astronomical compared to what the British players get. So it'd be just absolutely mental to even consider doing that so early on in a career. Something you do probably later on. Who knows? He might do it. It depends what motivates you. Everyone's motivated by money. But he is an outstanding talent. But I also think we've got a lot of great talent over here already. And someone like Jake Wardle, who we've already mentioned, that's won every trophy going, and won the man of the match in the grand final last year. And we've got some good quality over here. We just need to be able to harness it a little bit better and give better opportunities.
Couldn't agree with you more. Right, okay. Well, we'll get on to game 2 in a minute. Of course, before we get on to the men's game, there's a double header at Headingley. It sounds as if the sales are going really well. All the seating is now has now been sold out, so it's going to be standing room only, literally down there, which is fantastic for the fans on Saturday. Should be a great atmosphere. And of course, the women's game, which I think, yet again, from a marketing standpoint, has been really underplayed on both Wales and England's behalf. I don't think it's really got the exposure that it deserves. In saying that, I don't think the England-Samoa one has, to be quite honest. I think that could have been exposed a lot more than it has been. But these are the two teams that are coming up against it. Of course, you guys who follow women's rugby league will see that the England side is just littered with Super League quality. A little bit of Australian in there as well. Holly Mae Don, of course, coming back from Canberra as well in there. But, predominantly this is a Leeds, York, Valkyrie, Saints, Wigan side. But that said, of course, there is an Amelia Brown in there. That must please you, Earl, to see Amelia selected for England. And of course, on the other side, another Huddersfield Giant in Gracie Hobbs.
Yeah, we obviously it's great to see a couple of our players there, but Amelia Brown is just watch her if you get the opportunity. She's quality, and genuinely she's right up there with the best. And we're very lucky to have her at the Huddersfield Giants, and she's our star player by far. Still sort of learning a trade a little bit as well, but. Again, talking about being athletic, we put her at fullback a little bit more this year to get the ball in her hand, and I think straight away she's got a couple of almost full lengths. She's just got that sort of visual awareness as well, spatial awareness, speed for days. She's a good one to watch, and she'll set it alight. I can assure you that. And you talk about promoting the game, the women's game. We had a Yorkshire and Lancashire game only a couple of weeks ago. And I had no idea about it. And honestly, for me, Yorkshire versus Lancashire is a big thing. I'd love that in the men's game. To see it just appear from absolutely nowhere in the women's game, I was a little bit surprised, taken back, but great to see as well. I think it's a great way to showcase a lot of the talent in this country.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and this is what I said when we had the teams up then, we've got to market the sport better than we do, because, if people within the game like yourself, who has a vested interest in the game, don't know these matches are going on, good luck finding new people to watch it. I mean, we need to be better in those marketing areas. I mean, it's a shame this, because, as much as I hope that people get into Headingley early to watch this one, there's a massive imbalance between these two sides. I mean, the majority of the Welsh squad are Cardiff Demons players, 12 of them, in fact. There's a littering of Leeds in for Bethan Dainton, of course, the captain. She's Leeds Rhinos. Gracie Hobbs we've already mentioned as well in there as well. Caris March is Wigan. Georgia Taylor, of course, is York in there. But you look at the two squads. I think this is a real Achilles heel for women's international rugby league, in the fact that they want to prepare for the World Cup. But they're playing the likes of France. And this, again, not being disrespectful to France, not being disrespectful to Wales, who I'm sure will represent their country with passion and pride on the weekend. But the England women need stronger competition before they go up against those big hitters, Australia and New Zealand, because otherwise it'll be just like, dare I say it, a League One championship side coming up against the Super League side in the Challenge Cup. It's just going to be an imbalance, Earl, isn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, we do question ourselves sometimes, because you're talking about the women's game, but it'd be the exact same if it was the men's game, wouldn't it?
Correct.
Exact same. It'd be the exact same if they're playing against Wales or Ireland or Scotland, and we're going into a World Cup, and it's a poor team from either one of those countries. Then we'll be questioning, why the heck are we playing these when we need some good, tough performances before the World Cup to prepare yourself in the best way. It's all to do with being right at the right time in professional sports, irrelevant of sort of like which team you're playing for. Now, they've got a job to do, the women's team, so it's a case of not taking any prisoners. The quality that's in that England team should put this Welsh team away. And hopefully we'll see that as well. And they'll have to do that and do it in a professional manner. It's a good opportunity for the coaches to try out some different things, different tactics, depending on how the style they want to play, etc. But it also has its downfall. You don't get that quite that intensity. And yeah, you're right, that is a concern. And you should be looking to play against tougher opposition. But it's where is that tougher opposition? What opportunities are there to play? And that's why it needs to keep increasing, keep improving, and making sure there's some better teams to be able to face up against.
And that's where that Yorkshire-Lancashire comes in, because it's a far more competitive game than perhaps this one's going to be. Again, not wishing to be disrespectful to Wales in any way, but like I say, it's a big imbalance in terms of the quality of those two squads. But anyway, we wish them both well at the weekend, and it's nice that it is a double header. Right, we're going to get into Earl's Ribs now over the Huddersfield Giants. We're going to have a little chat with Earl about Huddersfield 2024 and of course the excitement for 2025. With of course under new stewardship in Mr. Robinson. Steph, Joel, join in on this one by all means. I'll kick off with a question, and then by all means you guys take over. Guys, get in the chat as well. If you've got a question for Earl in terms of the Huddersfield Giants, get it in the chat. We will pose them to him. So I'll start with an easy, well, not an easy one, but should be an easy one. Last season, Earl. Obviously, Player of the Season awards are given out at every club, but if Eorl Crabtree was to present a Player of the Year award at the Huddersfield Giants last year, who would you have presented that to? Who was your standout player for 2024 at Huddersfield?
I don't even have to think about it. There was only one. It was Leroy Kudja by a country mile, and he won absolutely everything, and that's the way it should have been as well. The disappointing thing for me, and I'll tell this to Leroy as well, like, he shouldn't be winning that. Not at his age. He's a centre that's turned loose forward. But yeah, he's a standout player for the Huddersfield Giants. How is that possible? Where is everybody else around him that should be leading the team? At what point does somebody take over from Leroy Kudja? Now, that's just for him, it's testament to the person he is, the player he is. Cheers. Leroy is an ultimate professional. He'd do anything for the boys. He'd look after absolutely everyone. He's one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. Ultimate professional, role model. And he shows that week in, week out. And I think he's an example, again, to younger players coming through to how you should lead your life as a professional rugby league player. He's the guy. Just look at him. And you can see that at his age of whatever he is, nearly 40 or whatever he is now. Not far off. It's not quite as close as me.
Well, before the guys chip in, another player that you played alongside who's called time on his illustrious career, Jermaine McGilvery. Uncle Freddie is watching. I don't know if you know Uncle Freddie McGilvery, but he's watching tonight as well. But Jermaine, you talk about Leroy being the ultimate pro. Talk to us about Jermaine. Give a tribute to him tonight as well.
Tightest man in rugby league. That's it. Now, so... As I think most people probably know, there's a few players that have come through sort of our academy and played a long time, like myself, and those are Leroy Kudja, Michael Lawrence, and Jermaine McGilvery, and then myself. And they were a little bit younger than me, but I was very, very fortunate to be alongside every one of those players as they made their debuts. Just as skinny lads that didn't really know where they were and what they were doing, but took an opportunity to play professional sports. And I mean, we're talking like Michael Lawrence with his hands in his pockets, absolutely freezing. Leroy Kudja, not a clue about getting in the middle of the field, and now he's a loose forward and captain of the club. And then Jermaine McGilvery, the rawest player you'll have ever seen. Not a rugby player, he was a footballer, very good footballer as well. Being asked to come down to play in the academy because they needed some players with Leroy Kudja. They give him the ball and he run just as hard as he possibly could. Not really knowing what's going on, but he ran as hard as he could. And they saw something in him. He played more games in the academy. He was given an opportunity in the first team to be given a contract. I think it was taken under the wing of Dave Hodgson. So Dave Hodgson, ex-Great Britain player, England player, Huddersfield, Wigan, Hull KR coach as well. And he taught him just about everything he knew about tactical awareness, where to be, positioning. And the one thing Dave couldn't really teach him was how to run hard. He already did that. and he ran as hard as he could, started breaking tackles. And if you wanted to be off the back of a play the ball, it was his. Jermaine McGillivray is not underrated, I think underappreciated player in the modern era. Playing that many games as he did for Huddersfield and also Great Britain, from his background as well, is something that should be not forgotten about. He deserves as many accolades as he could get. And to finish his year off at Wakefield in the style that he did is something he should be very, very proud of. And I'm proud to have played alongside him as well.
Here. I've really enjoyed watching McGillivray over the years. And Leroy, I think, for me, you think of the show ponies, the ultra skillful players that just the likes of French now, and Lee Breers at Warrington, who obviously I'd have a bit of time for. But if you were going to put all of those to one side and just say, right, the bread and butter rugby league player, the 9 out of 10ers, forget all of that. Leroy's in that 10 alongside the likes of Benny Westwood and those types. Leroy Cudjoe has been a pleasure. I don't support Huddersfield, but he's been a pleasure to watch over the years. Cracking player. Right, Steph, any question you would like to pose to Mr. Crabtree?
I think Huddersfield are probably underperformed by your own admittance kind of thing over the past couple of seasons. What do you think you need to improve on next season? Where's the key areas for you in the team, or where you think to go from being a ninth place team to making that playoffs again?
I'll be honest with you. I think we're a mile off at the moment, and that's just being open and honest. But I believe it's beyond the players, as in ability. So what I mean by that is, for the last couple of years, not last year, but the year before, there was expectation and we'd be in the top four. We just wasn't. We didn't perform. The year after last year, we really struggled again. We was hoping to do a bit better, and again, we underperformed. Now, the common denominator for me is obviously you've got this group of people, but you've also got an unhappy camp. So for me personally, and this is someone that, so I'm currently at university studying leadership, a master's degree in leadership. And one of the things we're talking about is social identity and psychological safety. So essentially saying that these people within this group don't feel comfortable. I think there's too much of a poor culture within the Huddersfield Giants and what has been in the past, where they're not together enough. And this is just on a personal level. I see between the lads, and I've seen some uncertainty in the last few years where the players just don't seem like they're close enough, like they're not playing for each other. Now, they've all got ability, they've all got their own ideas on what success looks like, but I think it needs somebody to bring them all together, to find a way of making them want to work with each other, play alongside each other and have each other's backs. The best teams I've ever played in, they were all my best mates. It was that simple. Playing along, the way I talk about Leroy and Bruno, Michael Lawrence and Jermaine, it's because that's how I feel about them, and that's genuine.
Do you think that's potentially why my club league? Do you think that's probably why they've? A lot of people probably say they've overachieved. Winning the Challenge Cup 2 successive years in the playoffs, but the culture just seems to be amazing at Lee now, and I think it can take you to that next level, can't it? Even if you've not got the best talent, if you're a bunch of blokes, and I played in rugby league teams that we've all been, like you said, best mates, and we've gone on to do great things, probably miles better than what we would have possibly hoped. But I think it does make a massive difference, doesn't it, if you're coercive as a team?
Yeah, that's a team that I'd pick up. The way they do things off the field as well, Lee. It actually all ties in together, and they perform better on the field as well. And it's the same as Hull KR. That's why I mentioned them before. I think they've changed the culture. Wigan are the best by a country mile. Yeah. And I think other teams are catching up now. And then if you bring these players into this fold where you're happy, where you feel like you're in a comfortable place, you want to be there, you want to turn up to training every day, I think that outweighs talent every single day. I honestly do think talent's overrated. Yeah. Especially in modern game now. And I don't want to trivialise the sport. It's 5 carries for a kick to the corner. How much talent do you need in the middle of the field especially to do that? Yeah. You need your Harry Smith who can control the ball and kick it, on a pinpoint. right into the corner. Your forwards have to be very fit. They have to be able to catch a ball, which doesn't take a lot of talent, and they need to be able to tackle and run hard. It's not about talent. It's about wanting to be a part of it, wanting to have it in your heart and actually be able to do it and maintain it. Now, that's the thing. The difference is physically you have to be able to back it up. It isn't about talent. That's it's, for me, it's a little bit different these days. Your outside centres, them sort of positions, a little bit different. But I believe if you can get a team that want to play well, play for each other, and I think this is where Luke Robinson comes in. I really do. He's been there, he's done it. He's one of the lads to a certain degree, like Sam Burgess, puts his arm around them. He knows how to treat them. He knows how to get the respect of the players. The best coach I've ever been under has been Nathan Brough, and I had to run through brick walls for him because he had my back. That's how I felt. So, it's I find it very interesting. The psychology interests me about rugby league. And I get not so much the talent side of it. It's getting the culture right within your club and also your team, but also the rest of the club as well. It's not just about the team.
Yeah, I think you could probably throw Salford into that equation as well. You know, Paul Rowley getting, you know, on the very limited budget he has there to get the best out of those players. And they've got a talented squad, but, you know, he does have to get every single ounce out of them. And to them to finish in 4th place this year, again, it just goes to show if you get that culture right, you don't need the biggest of squads or spend the most money. You can still compete in Super League and be a very strong side.
Look at Ryan Brealey. Someone like him who's he's been to enough clubs and never really got the opportunity. He was at Huddersfield for a while. And I was around training where he just didn't get a look in. And he wasn't treated the best, I'll be honest with you. He was treated like someone that just didn't deserve to be in the squad. And at that time, he couldn't find a way. But he's found a way, but he's battled through it. And now he's a player agent as well. And he knows how to coach people. And these are probably the sort of things that he'd speak about is the players and being happy and an understanding of where you are in the environment that you're in and not taking it too seriously and get too upset, because coaches make or break careers. It's really that simple. Ryan Brealey is a great example of going through all that adversity and coming through the other side, and now he's in the starting team every single week and he's playing very well in a good Salford team.
100%.
Just on that, I mean, you mentioned there as you're chatting, as you're talking there, Steph, you talk about this connectivity between teams, and of course that shows up more in defence than it does in attack. I mean, one sport I can't stand is cricket. You know, when I was at PE, I didn't want to field. Give me a bat, I'll hit a ball. You know, that's entertaining, but don't put me in the field. I can't be bothered. Same on a rugby league field, isn't it? You know, when you're attacking, you can do the flary stuff. You've got the ball, happy days, but where games are won and lost is in defence. And I mean, Warrington under, for the last 2 seasons weren't showing up for each other. This season, that for me has been probably one of the biggest pleasing aspects of Warrington's season is just how well they've defended this season. And I think when Huddersfield came to Warrington, I don't want to remind you of that, but it was on show, wasn't it? That day, it was all over the place. And defence it's the easiest way to spot an identity of a group of players, isn't it, in defence?
I 100% agree with you. The first 3 tackles, I'd say, of the game, where the opposition are. And I've been in games before where I've seen the ball and I've been absolutely nailed and got up for, we're in a game. And then the opposite side of that, where I've almost got half through and thought, here we go, we're on. Within the first 3 tackles, you can work out if the opposition are on it or not. It's that quick. Yeah. So the mentality, especially at the start of the game, has to be get off your line really hard, get in front, bodies in front, and actually hit to hurt. And if you can do that, then it goes back to like a little bit of psychology. Is the opposition know straight away that they're in for a tough game. And for me, defence is how you can break teams. It's horrible. When you're attacking the line and you just can't get through. And Huddersfield had that all year. Joel will probably testify to that one where we're just watching Huddersfield and they just can't seem to do anything. Now, defensively, you're growing confidence as well. And it becomes comfortable. You're almost laughing at how easy you can do it. And when you've got that mentality and you've got each other's backs and you'll cover each side, inside of each other, you're a hard team to beat. And that's what the top teams do. They know it, though. Wigan especially, they know Doesn't matter what you're going to throw at them, they will hang on in there and they will battle as hard as they can.
Grand final, case in point is what I would say there. Question from Craig Forth. I'm going to come to you in a sec, Joel. Get a couple of the fans' forums in. Craig Forth. I think let's look at it within reason, because of course the easy answer to this: who would you dream signing be Bevan French, a player like that, perhaps? But let's look at this differently. Where Huddersfield Giants are currently at. If you could sign a player that maybe would be in reach of Huddersfield Giants at this moment in time, that you think could have a massive bearing, bit of Championship manager time, Earl. You're at the helm. Who would that be? Who do you revere in the game that you think, you know what, we could possibly stand an outside chance of getting that person, and that would be a brilliant addition to our squad?
Outside chance, I'm not entirely sure. For me, last season especially, our game's totally changed when Danny Levi left. We've just not replaced him. It's just been he's such a talent, and I honestly think those we talk about talented players within certain positions. Your Harry Smiths, like they've got a certain job. Hooker, for me, is one of the biggest positions. So Ipape, the way he plays the game, how hard he does. But I'd even look at someone like Darryl Clark. I mean, I would have looked at him a couple of years ago, because when they're starting to come to sort of, not the twilight of the career, but you think, they played at the highest and now they're sort of tapering off. But it isn't a case of them tapering off. It's just finding the feet again. And I think he's done that at Warrington and then back in England. So for me, it's a hooker, whether that hooker be someone like Ipape or Darryl Clark, someone around the middle of the field like that. I think that was what would get us moving forward, especially when you got Tom Burgess in your team.
Would you not want Matt Parcell?
I like Matt Parcell, and he's had a great year. I was looking at some of his stats. I think he scored quite a lot of tries during this season as well, one of their highest try scorers, and it seemed like he was out of favour.
Yeah.
For me, he would 100% be a punt that I'd be willing to take the risk on without a doubt. We have got Zach Wolford coming over, which again, my naivety, I don't know too much about him. But I'd love a little bit of pace, that injection around the middle of the field, just to get us going forward a little bit. Halves, obviously, you can look at different halves and you say, shoot for the stars and go for a Bevan French. But no, I honestly think we need a good, solid, quick hooker that can get forward and get us on the front foot.
I mean, in terms of the last 3 to 4 seasons, nobody's ran more from dummy half than Matt Parcell. Cracking player. And I think, you know what, if you could have got 12 months out of him to steady the ship, that is a great shout, Steph. Absolutely great shout. Let's go to USA Rugby League. Yeah, it's international. The Withers yet again, USA Rugby League. And a Union fan, we don't talk about the latter. He loves you, Earl. He loves you. An amazing dude. Eating some shrimp for lunch and listening to you. Outstanding. There you go. There's your shout out.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Absolutely. Right. LG. Let's go to LG. What was it like playing with Mr. Danny Brough? Seemed like a bit of a nutter. Laugh out loud.
That's it. Well, me and Brough are chalk and cheese. We're very, very different people. I felt like I calmed him down a little bit, but love a little drink with him, and he's somebody that I've got a lot of time for. He's now coaching rugby union, funnily enough, down at Huddersfield Lockwood. He's doing quite well. Found his feet a little bit, but the ultimate competitor. For me, one of the absolute best players I've ever played alongside. He was a maverick. He crossed the line probably too many times. But I've literally played in games with him. There's one at Hull KR where Paul Anderson would give us a game plan, and it wasn't working. We're going at the wrong person every time. We're off at Albert Kelly, and I was sending a Kumatai at Albert Kelly, and he just kept getting banged all the time. Kumatai is massive, Tongan captain. So anyway, after a little while, they scored a try, scored another try. And it's like, no, keep going at him. It's working. It wasn't working, I swear. So anyway, we conceded another try, and then Brough gets us in behind the sticks and goes, right, stuff what they say up there. This is what we're doing. We are changing the plan. We're going up the middle of the field. I was like, all right, fair enough. So we started hitting around the back of the ruck, making good yardage. Anyway, we get into position, we're scoring the corner. We get the ball back, we're going back up the middle of the field again. It's working again. So we go and score another one. And then we get a message, come on, after about 10 minutes saying, right, lads, it's worked. Now start going down the middle. This is a plan we'd already started doing. He didn't have a clue what had happened, but Brough had changed it in the middle of the game. That was the type of player Brough was. He wasn't just a player and a bit of a gob. He was an instrumental part of what made us successful. An absolute leader on the field, a maverick, one of the toughest guys I've ever played alongside. But there's an element of insanity that came along with that as well. And that's why I absolutely loved him. Still love him to this day. Great, great bloke. He'd do anything for you. But you don't kind of want to be on the wrong side of him, as probably most of the referees would tell you. So,
well, Aaron will certainly talk about that on In Combo. And actually, if you can get a word into Danny, we'd love to have him as In Combo. Might have to be after hours, but it'd be good fun. Right, Mr. Roach, I'm sure. Cal Bellamy, Huddersfield Giants fan, be rude was not to put his one on the screen. He wants to get your view on the up and coming, the likes of Ollie Wilson, Harry Rushton, and Matty English, maybe even Fenton Rodgers as well. Players that played the tough stuff down the middle like you did. What's your thoughts on the young Giants, Earl? Is it in a good place in certain areas, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Harry Rushton especially. I see him as another leader moving forward, somebody who could step up to be captain in the next few years. I think he's really sort of setting his stall out the way he applies himself. Fenton Rodgers, another, I like him. He's a big kid. He's a big gangly thing as well. You can tell when he gets fatigued. He's a bit like me. Body starts going, but he's got aggression. He's got that sort of physical prowess that you need in the middle of the field. He could be a battering ram. Matt English, I want to see him come on now. It's been too long. He's a great player. I do feel for him because every time he seems to be getting himself going, he's had quite a lot of concussions and head knocks. There is a concern over that for me. Your health comes first, regardless of anything. This is just a sport. But if he's right and he's good to go, crack on. But I think he needs to step up now. He needs to cement his position. I was very lucky. I played over 400 games, and there's at some point where you've got to go, no, I'm the starting prop week in, week out. That's my position. Chris Hill's gone. We've got Tom Burgess to come in. He's not going to be a 60-minute prop. We know that. Ollie Wilson, England's player, he needs to step up as well. He's got the perfect platform, the perfect opportunity. The lot of the young lads in the middle of the field, we've got some quality, some really good players, all very athletic, all very fit, and seem to have the head screwed on as well. So it's an exciting time in that sense. But a couple of ones that, such as my English, there's a bit of pressure on him. From my perspective, I want to see him step up now. It's time to kick on a little bit.
Well, for those who didn't see it, me and Earl sat down earlier in the season and did an in-conversation. Go and watch his as well. Go and look at Series 1. I'll announce Series 2. The next person who I'm going to be interviewing for Series 2 in a minute. But we didn't talk about this man on In-Combo. For me, one of my favourite players in the Giants shirt this year has been Sam Hewitt. I think Hewitt's had a great season. I really do. Long term, where do you see Sam?
Same. I think you're starting back rower, English back rower as well, which is great to see. But I would say the same with him. So as we said before, we talked about ability and talent. Now I wouldn't say Sam Hewitt skill set is he's a talented player, he's a skillful player. It's not about his skill set. What he offers is all-out aggression, fitness, and a desire to hurt people, run hard, break the line, and score tries. That is all about effort-based parts of his game. And he saw that in the last game of the season. He scored 2 really good tries. And he got man of the match in that game as well. And he was outstanding, along with a load of other players. I think he'll get confidence. I think he's, I don't know, I've not spoken to him about this, but he's fairly new to be playing week in, week out. He went to Wakefield on loan, had a good stint there, came back, played a few more games, but now he seems to be getting a run. And that's when your confidence builds. You know, he scored 2 tries at the end of the season. You actually start going, actually, I can do this, guy. I'm actually not bad. And it's that belief in yourself. And I think he's actually starting to learn that. Now, if we can get a few more of the younger players believing in themselves, And I think there's a great future there. And it isn't. I don't think it's next year, maybe not the year after, but we are building these players. And if you can build around them with some more quality, then, you can go anywhere with that. I honestly think you get this team playing together, then we stand a good chance.
So Mark Hill there, we'll finish with Mark and then we'll go to Joel. Where do you think realistically Huddersfield will finish next year? Now, of course, let's bear in mind Castleford on this as well, because nobody have had Castleford where they finished, this season where they did. Incredible what Craig Lingard did down there at Cass. You've already said some good talent in the team. We know that all big question marks over Hull FC. We'd have to say that. Salford, if they keep their players fit again, like they did this season, yeah, they could be playoff again. But again, fitness, real key there. Realistically, are you looking at leading tier 3? Getting into that 8th spot? Would that be a good season for you? Get 9th, 8th maybe?
I think it depends who you ask, doesn't it? But I think the way we performed the last 2 seasons and where we wanted to head to, we need to take a step. And I don't see how we compete with the other teams at the top. We might knock them off a game or 2 or something like that. But we need to be looking more at our future. And I think that is basing it around these younger players and making the next step up, making them improvements. I think if we're just trying to fight to get into that sort of 7th, 8th, around that area, battling with those people and making sure we get ahead of that little, like you said, the tier there, I think that's a successful season. The bigger picture for us is, as you've seen, we talked about the news before, is we're looking to have our new stadium in the next few years. I think there's going to be a lot of investment in that. And the club's got some decisions on Ken Davey on where that investment goes. And I think the stadium's a massive part of our future. It's a part of the puzzle. That's a game changer. As soon as we have that, it'll change absolutely everything. I honestly do believe that. In so many different aspects, commercially for myself and the rest of the team, the players, the fans, we can start creating a FOMO, the fear of missing out, because you can create an atmosphere. But we have fans, but when you're playing poor rugby league, they dwindle. And when it's on Sky TV, it's too easy not to have to turn up. You need to create a venue, an experience that people just don't want to miss out on. We can't do that at the John Smith Stadium.
No.
So this is going beyond, what we're talking about and players and things like that and where we're going to finish. The bigger picture for the Huddersfield Giants is a cultural thing. A new stadium, not a new identity, but an identity that we all buy into. And the players are a part of that. They become a part of it. So, yeah, it could be exciting, but it's got to happen.
There's a blueprint for that, Earl, as well, in terms of, like you've already mentioned, Hull KR and Lee. If you look at those 2 clubs as an example, they've gone from 5,000 crowds to 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 averages. So, and I think the stadium, you're absolutely right, matters so much, because your atmosphere, there's 100% of fear of missing out at Lee. The season ticket sales have already got off the charts already, and definitely at Hull KR. So it's definitely achievable for Huddersfield. I think you're absolutely nailed it there. You need your own identity in a place where it belongs to Huddersfield Giants, and then that, as you say, will be a game changer, I believe, for the club.
And Ken Davey and certainly Ken anyway, because let's be fair, what a champion bloke what he's done for that town and for that club. But also, the invested people in, you'll know them all by name, the behind the scenes workers who blood, sweat and tears. And they're almost like, let's be fair, they're almost like emergency responders, because I bet some of these people, they don't have a lot of money, but they put a hell of a shift in because of the passion and pride for Huddersfield Giants. So they deserve it as well. The fans deserve it. We all, they're the butt of a lot of jokes, Huddersfield Giants fans, but at their core, the ones that turn up week in, week out, there's no, let's be fair, they're on a par of any other Super League fan, even more so because they're not seeing success and they're coming out every single week to do the cowbells and to get behind the fans. And speaking of which, there's none bigger, literally none bigger than Joel. Joel, mate, have you got a question for the big man?
Earl's bigger than me. Let's just stop this right.
I'd love to see you both go head to head with an arm wrestle. It'd be great stuff. But go on, mate.
Well, it's like Earl reading my mind. He kind of very much touched on the point of the question I was going to ask earlier. Let me take you back to 2013, Earl. League Leader Shield. for a lot of people at the time, they said that I was seeing this, and you always get this on social media. It doesn't mean anything. It was just legally the Shield. It doesn't mean anything. But to us as Huddersfield lads and a team that you were playing as part of, you know, that it was everything. It's some silverware that we've not had and that we've not seen and we might not see for a while. Back then, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, and there's no disrespect to some of the players that were in the squad then, we didn't have the best squad, but we certainly did have the best team. And that was based off what you said earlier about having your friends playing together. Certainly being there, what you might not have seen because you were on the pitch yourself, is every player who was on that pitch, you could tell absolutely adored the moment. It was the biggest crowd I've ever seen. It was the loudest I've ever heard it. I'm sure you might agree with that. And I guess every player, every fan, every person a part of the Huddersfield Giants had an identity. And over the years, unfortunately, we've seen the stadium turn more white and blue. We've seen the less and less Giant signs up. And there's like the token Giants signs put up when games are on. So based on the new stadium, and you have kind of almost answered it, but do you think that not new identity, but finding our identity again of who we are as the founders of Rugby League? You know, you think back to the promos that you've done. I think Mark put in the chat. It made me laugh because he mentioned about you pushing skips. I actually sent Earl a video about a year ago. My uncle sent him one of there was a skit of Earl getting hit by a car, and I think the car came off worse. You know, and I think stuff like that. So I guess the question is, do you think that once this new stadium hits and we get all the right things in place, because behind the scenes we know you guys are going to be doing everything you can to get things going, do you think that's going to be from the ground running? Because we're not obviously going to be having these any more crazy blockbuster signings because we've got our stadium to pay for. Do you think that could influence the on-field stuff far more than what any players could do and get back what you had in 2013?
So I think to almost go back in reverse of what you just said there. So I think a initial blockbuster signing or a couple of signings is short term. It's a short term fix. It's just there's no longevity in that. How many players do we get that come over, have a couple of great years, and they go off somewhere else? It happens every time. It happens all the time. We are a stepping stone for the sport. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. People use it as a stepping stone to go back to Australia, go on to a different club and go on to be successful. We can't be a stepping stone for players for the future. So you need to look at longevity. So how do we not become the stepping stone, but we become the final destination? Huddersfield Giants is not a final destination. It is a stepping stone. Like you said, the blue and white of the stadium, Huddersfield Town, it's fantastic. It looks brilliant. It really does. If you're a Huddersfield Town fan, there's nothing in there that says Huddersfield Giants. Have a look next time you go. And this is me. This is the way I look at stuff. The big screen is the only place within the stadium that you will see the Huddersfield Giants badge. And next to it, you will see the opposition's badge. So we have the exact same amount of branding in the middle of the stadium with all our fans and all the opposition's fans. It is disgraceful. It just shouldn't be able to happen. But it is because that's the situation we find ourselves in because of the shared ownership and Huddersfield Town are taking over it. It's happening. So we need to look at the future. The final destination is this smaller stadium with our own brand, our own identity. Who are we? The home of Rugby League, the birthplace of Rugby League, whatever it is. Something that you've got to buy into. Then you've got to look at your values. What is it that you live by? Are we a family club? Is it a business? What is it? What are we doing? What are we trying to achieve as a club? And it has to run from top to bottom, including all the players where everyone buys into it. We'll be in charge of all our catering, which we don't make money off catering, not properly anyway. We're not in charge of it. We don't gauge our own prices. We don't sell our own hospitality food-wise. We just get to sell the function suites and the boxes, but we don't get to make money off the beer sales and things like that. We don't make money off events. That is a separate entity within the stadium. So we'll be in control of everything we do. We can be the Huddersfield Giants, but it doesn't have to be just about Rugby League. You create an experience, but you can also create a venue that actually caters for other things as well, so it can be self-sustainable. So if we could be self-sufficient, ultimately, it's just better for the club. The players will come off the back of that. Why wouldn't you want to go there? Why wouldn't you want to go to this birthplace or the home of rugby league when it's such a brilliant part of the world with a load of fans that go and enjoy it on a weekly basis? You want it to be an attraction, not to be seen as an opportunity to help you move on. And I think that's where we are at the moment.
Thing that I have to say, Joel, I'll come back to you, mate, but what I love about in conversations, our membership, listening to you and Joel there talk, the passion for this game of ours. It's a privilege to be a part of the rugby league community, and I could listen to that type of conversation all night long. You know, that is what these clubs are built on. You know, and as a non-Huddersfield Giants fan, I hope you get there, because it'd be great for the league, it'd be great for the sport. Joel, back to you, mate.
Yeah, and it's just off the back of what Earl said. You know, people talk about different people who've got good academies. I honestly don't know. Look, Wigan's got a few of our academy players. The NRL have got a few of our academy players. What Huddersfield's produced are some of the best rugby league players on this planet. Dom Young is absolutely ripping it up. Why didn't we keep him? Jake Wardle, ripping it up. Why didn't we keep him? Luke Robinson alluded to it. We've got all these lads that we could have kept, and they could have been these blockbuster, not signings, but players that we grew and created and made. You go back to the old adage of the NRL, they're on big super money. I've thought about this. You know, all it needs is one big, massive investor for the league that could work alongside IMG or however it's going to go. And we can then offer these players that kind of money to keep them here. So then the Super League doesn't become the stepping stone for the NRL. In case then it becomes a level playing field and it's more of a Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere.
Just to jump in there, sorry, Joel, the slight difference between, like Dom Young. Dom Young was already getting touted before, while he was at Huddersfield. He went off on a little bit of a trial while he was at Huddersfield. We had no chance of keeping on to him. He was only like 17, 18-year-olds. We gave him an opportunity, and Australia came knocking early doors. So there's not much we could have done. Jake Wardle, different story. We should never have let him go. But that comes down to coaches' preferences. Now, I'd have loved to have kept him. We invested all that money and time into him as a young player coming through, and then he's got to this level and we've got rid of him, which is absolutely bonkers. But it is what it is. You move. Now, the problem I have with our sport at the moment, and also NRL, it's like you think it's like a little stepping stone. NRL is through the roof. We're down here and we are dropping fast. We're getting miles away. I honestly think if there's any opportunity for a rugby league player, and this is me on a personal point, let them go to Australia. Go and better yourself. Go and have that opportunity to live your dream and live it properly. This is rugby league. You get one shot at it. Let them go, mate, because they're getting so far away. It's up to us as a sport, as a country as well, is actually to develop our own players and keep them progressing and actually improve the sport. We're not improving. NRL are just taking it to another level. So if anyone gets an opportunity, guess what? My recommendation, you get yourself out there and go and live your life, because that is what it's about, living the dream. It's not rugby league, like playing it and playing your dream. We need to catch up. I don't think one investor will be enough. Maybe we've got Betfred that pay ridiculous amounts of money. Where are we getting this from? We'd have to start going to Saudi or something like that to get the sort of money that we need to take this to another level. And unless you're getting that, mate, this game is really going to struggle for a number of years. So that's why you need to be more self-sufficient as clubs. And I think that's what IMG are trying to do. It's just a very long-winded and slow process to be able to achieve anything in that.
Yeah. We had Derek on, and that was an interesting episode earlier if you haven't seen it, because he has about a 20 to 25 minute monologue of his ambition for our sport and the investment in America and the people that he's rubbing shoulders with at the moment. It is fascinating. And again, passion for this great sport of ours. It's wonderful. We'll come back and ask Earl some more questions. Keep them going in the chat, but we're going to have a little break from those for the time being. We will come back in a minute. But before we do, we're going to talk a little bit about game number 2. And our next in conversation guest is booked in. Would you like to hear about the career and aspirations of perhaps the next Huddersfield Giants captain? That's right, Harry Rushton will be joining me next week for a sit-down chat about his career and his ambitions at the Huddersfield Giants. That one is coming very, very soon. More on that next week. But Harry Rushton is going to be with us for more in conversation. We're really looking forward to that. And of course, we announced this last week. Here we go. Super League Raw live at the Bluebell. The Bluebell, the home of Super League Raw in Warrington, the 21st of January. Tickets are now on general sale, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm pleased to say we've already, and it's only been for a week, we've already got over 30 people joining us in the Bluebell on the 21st of January. It would be absolutely marvellous. It is a ticket-only event. We need to know what numbers are coming. So get yourself over to our Patreon website, www.patreon.com/Super League Raw. Remember, do not book on Apple iOS. But I'm pleased to say that you can come and see Big Earl in the flesh, because that's our first announcement for Super League Raw Live. Earl will be making the pilgrimage with Joel and perhaps other special guests from the Huddersfield Giants, which we'll be able to announce a little bit nearer to the time. But Earl will be there in attendance. We will be announcing more guests every single week. We're estimating we're certainly going to have probably anywhere between, I'm guessing it's going to be double figures, maybe a dozen ex-players, current players, coaches, perhaps even owners of clubs in attendance. Well worth you getting there. And like I say, the membership as well is already open. So there it is on the screen right now for you. Get yourself over to patreon.com/Super League Raw. Come and join us for Super League Raw Live. The first one, we might be going to Huddersfield as well at some point during the stadium. We'll be a season. We're having chats with Earl about that. Maybe Huddersfield hosting us down there at the Giants and seeing the Cowbell Army in all of their finery. But yeah, that's going to be a bit of a night, boys, isn't it? Everybody's looking forward to that one, aren't we, Joel?
Definitely, yeah.
You driving, Joel?
I think I'll have to do, yeah. From what we said earlier,
yeah. As he takes a slurp of his wine.
I'm empty, actually, lads. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Heavy me. Right, well, I'll tell you what. In a minute, you can maybe shoot off and get yourself a little refill. We'll fill in some time for you while you do that. But before you do, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, Saturday, I will be doing the new draw. That's it. It's over. The mastermind is shut. We've got our entries. This is how it's going to work. It's going to be four mini leagues. That's how it's going to work. The mastermind series. This is something that the members have got throughout the winter. If you've not become a member yet, where have you been? We're going right the way through the winter. It's going to be 4 leagues of 5. And in order for me to be able to do that and to cut the work down, I'm sure Joel and Steph don't mind, there will be a Super League Raw team that Joel, Steph and Greg will be a part of. They'll only be playing one of them. They'll have to go on a little bit of a rota basis, those 3. But in order to make it the 4 leagues, that's what I've had to do, and I'm sure the lads don't mind. So it's going to be 4 leagues of 5. You'll be having 3 questions on your own team, members. Keep your eye out for that. I'll post it in the Patreon website and on the chat, and you'll also get an email with what league you're in. We're going to be starting those head-to-heads next week. I need your help to make sure that happens. All league winners will win a prize, and of course then we will have semi-finals and a final to determine who is the mastermind champion, and we will feature a couple of those head-to-heads as a part of Super League Raw. And you know what? I did it to Steph, so I'm going to do it to Joel. It's time to play Whose Cowbell Rings the Loudest? In the blue corner, it's the man with 1,000 faces. It's our very own Joel Scholes. And in the red corner, it's the ponytail to be feared, Big Eorl Crabtree. Whose cowbell is going to ring the loudest? It's time to find out. there you go. Here we go. It's whose cowbell is going to ring in the loudest. We're going to put Joel up against Earl. A little bit of friendly Huddersfield Giants trivia and fun between the two. Right, as always, we're going to have to find a little card. Here we go. Let's do this. Earl, as you're the guest, heads or tails?
Heads.
It's a tail, I'm afraid. It's gone on tails. So, Joel, are you going first or are you going second?
I'm going to go second.
Fantastic. Right, Earl, here we go. Are you ready?
No.
Outstanding. He's coming anyway. So question number 1 for Earl. Okay. Who wore the number 20 jersey for the Huddersfield Giants last season? Who was number 20?
Oh, I don't even know the players anymore. What's number 20? I'm really struggling here. I don't know how long can I leave it for. I didn't even know this was actually happening.
No, it's a big surprise for you.
Yeah,
Neither did Joel.
Surprise.
Neither did Joel. Number 20. Give us a name. Who's going to be down that around the 20 mark in the squad numbers? Where are you going?
I ain't got a clue. Kieran Rush.
Incorrect. The answer was Elliot Wallace. Right, over to Joel. Joel, who wore the number 23 jersey for the Giants last season?
Ollie Russell.
Correct for 1 point, straight out the top draw. Well done there, Mr. Scholes. Well done. Right. Back to Mr. Crabtree. Who scored Huddersfield's first try at the John Smith Stadium in 2024? It was a 24 points to 10 loss to Hull KR in round 5. Who was the first person to score at the John Smiths last season?
Let's go Swifty.
No, it was a belting try as well, if you remember. Do you remember it, Joe? It was a peach.
I thought it was Tui.
No, it was that one where the Nagama come on it like a freight train. Remember that? Where he cut across the park and he absolutely was, what a line. What a line Nagama ran on that one. Right, Joel, this is to win. Wow.
Oh, that was quick.
That's quick. There's only 3 questions. Right, okay. Who scored the Huddersfield Giants' first try at Magic Weekend 2024?
Oh, man. That had to be Swift.
He was injured, mate. No.
Yeah,
He was injured, mate. He was injured. No, it was Sam Halsall.
Oh, nice.
So Early's still in. He's hanging on by his well,
I don't know. I've got nothing right so far.
Well, here we go. Well, look, Earl, you need to get this right.
Come on.
I'm fancying your chances here. I think you get this one right.
The thing is, Earl's a fountain of knowledge when it comes to Huddersfield. So I'm surprised.
And I am Huddersfield, but you remember, my job now is looking after hospitality, drinking in boxes with all the sponsors. And I hardly watch the games.
You do a good job of it, Earl, as well.
Thank you.
Phenomenal. An incredible host, if you don't mind me saying. Which player, right, Earl, here we go. Which player finished the season as the Huddersfield Giants' top tackler with 796 tackles? Who was your top tackler last season?
I would have said... Right, I'm just trying to think of this. I was thinking it was either going to be Leroy or someone else.
Well, that's a good answer, that is. Well done. It is Leroy Kudrow. Well done there. Mr. Crabtree, that keeps the game going. Fantastic. Leroy Kudrow, it was 796. Sorry, Joe. Just for theatre. We had to give him that one.
I went. Right. Give me a chance next time to dress it up. I was always going to Leroy. I
couldn't risk it.
No, I didn't.
Right then, Joel, which player, this is for the win, Joel, this is for a 2-1 win. Which player finished the season with the most tackle busts for the Giants with 96?
Oh.
You enjoyed it this week, Steph? Is it a lot better being on the other side of it?
It's going the same way, though, as last week.
It's horrible. You feel right under pressure. Then you go quiet. And you're like, I've got to fill that time as well.
I'm sure it's either an outside back, I think.
Go on. Where are you going?
I feel like it was Esan Masters.
With 96.
Yeah.
Joel wins 2-1. Well done, Joel. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. 2-1
I
win.
got that wrong as well.
Well done, mate. Outstanding. So there you go. Joel is the man whose cowbell was certainly ringing the loudest there. Well done, Mr. Scholes. Outstanding. Right. That brings us, gentlemen, to this weekend's clash, the big one, Samoa against England. The squads are in. These are the squads for the game. Expected changes from Sean Wayne in this one. Of course, no Dom Young. So maybe Liam Marshall gets to play, which I think nobody will begrudge Liam Marshall after the season that he's had. Of course, Junior Nsemba still in the squad, but so too is Kai Pearce-Paul and John Bateman. So there would have to be a change in personnel for that to happen. Everybody's expecting Luke Thompson to come back in, possibly at the expense of Ethan Havard. They're the squads. Earl, start with you. Do you expect Sean Wayne to make changes other than Dom Young, because he has to, of course, on one of the wings? So we expect that to be Marshall. But other than Marshall, who pretty much you'd expect to be a shoo-in on that basis, would you expect him to make more, Earl?
I don't know about expecting, but I'd like him to.
Yeah.
I think there's some great players in there that I think it'd be good to see them given an opportunity. I don't know why. For me, it doesn't feel like, the Great Britain days when it was the Ashes, because then it's like you feel like there's more to lose. Whereas even if, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's a lot to lose in this game. It does feel like a friendly vibe to it. So I want to see some of these other players, but then you start to think, well, we've got to win the series. So do you change things? Because you shouldn't, should you, in that sort of winning formula? But obviously Dom Young dropping out, I'm not entirely, is it an injury or what? But I actually thought Samoa, for the stick I've given him earlier, they handled Dom Young really well, considering. I think they targeted him, put the ball on his head just to make sure that he couldn't get get his pace up. But I don't see England making too many changes, but remains to be seen. I'd like to see those lads out there.
Yeah. Steph, do you think he'll change over and above Young?
Yeah, I think Nsemba's got to come in.
Yeah.
He just got to, and I think it's the right time to put him up against the international level as well. I think if you asked any England fan, they'd want to see Nsemba in this game all day long. Yeah.
Joel?
I don't think is Tom Burgess even in that squad.
Burgess is not in the squad, no. So
Havard
might remain.
Yeah, I don't think you can change too much. I think I am kind of surprised they've taken Dom Young out because
mate, he's picked up a
right. So yeah, because you want to play as a steady squad as you can. So I think Ethan Havard did a really good job up front when he were on. So yeah, that'd be definitely a good replacement for Burgess, I think. But yeah, you're not going to change it too much because you can sometimes do yourself a bit of a disservice.
Yeah. I mean, I think we know what we're going to get from England. I think regardless of who starts for England, I think we're pretty comfortable in terms of what they're going to churn out. But in terms of Samoa, Earl, I mean, is that a case of like what we saw in the World Cup, where because they'd only been over here for a short period of time, they were a bit cold going into it? I mean, you already said earlier that you expected to be a better version of Samoa at Headingley. Yeah,
that's genuinely what I expect. They'll be disappointed. It's not the first time this has happened. They've got some great players within that team, and you can see them there as well. It's like you'd expect them to stand up and show more. I just thought they looked really poor. They got a bit better towards the back end, and when it got feisty, like I said, then they showed a little bit more intensity. I expect the intensity will start a lot earlier on this time. There's no excuses. They're already 1-0 down. They'll be looking for revenge. So I'm looking forward to this one more so than the first one. I was just more disappointed. The anticipation was there. But again, a little bit disappointed. I thought Tonga were the same though last year. Tonga were awful.
Yeah,
so you just don't want the same again with Samoa. It's like, honest, turn up and absolutely rip in for your country. And I hope they do that.
we need to see the Samoa from the semi-final of the World Cup, don't we? That's what we all want to see, because we want to see that competitive game and going right down to the wire. And they're 100% capable of doing that, Samoa. I agree with you. I was quite disappointed with me and Dave were there and watched it live, and they never really seemed to click. And we had glimpses from Luai, and there was bits, but they never just seemed to. A bit going back to what we said about being the team. And as a minimum from a Pacific Island team, you expect them to play as a team, don't you, and give everything. And it just seemed to be a bit disconnected. So whether they can write that for this test, but I think the atmosphere at Headingley may help the occasion this week. I think it's going to be a bit more fuller than it was at Wigan, and I think it might bring it. And good, we had that bit of fireworks at the end of that game as well, which will lead into the next one. I think we might see a bit of a different match this week.
Thing as well, Joel. I mean, they're big game players like a Milford, Jerome Luai, Tuazi Shek at the back and at full back. They're box office players. Weren't allowed to. I mean, again, they didn't win the arm wrestle down the middle. They weren't allowed to, impose themselves on the game. But you expect to see far better from it. We know that they are quality players. But I think the middle unit of Samoa really need to stand up better in this game than they did at the Brick.
They do, because you look back at the semis, as Steph alluded to, they were just so dominant because they've got such big, ginormous people. I think even some of their halves are almost as big as some of our second rowers. So it's an imposing side, and the intensity, like Earl said, that they play with in the semis, needs to come in this game, and it will do. You don't have players like
Jerome Luai.
Luai playing, and others that are of his hilt and not playing a good game. These guys can create something from nothing. So to be having a pack that's backing them up like they do, you're going to see a closer encounter, and I do hope it is a semi-final round too, because it's what England needs, because we don't get a chance to play like the Kiwis and the Aussies in these types of games unless it's a World Cup. So we need a good stiff competition for us to give us something to look forward to and see where we're actually at for the World Cup.
I don't know about you, Earl. I mean, based on the World Cup, the likes of Tonga, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, I mean, from the outside, we saw at the World Cup, they look like they are improving year in and year out. And I think Samoa need to be better against England to probably be treated by the likes of New Zealand and Australia as real players. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think it would be fair. And I don't know why, but for me, when, say, like Tonga came over last year, there's Samoa this year, I don't see it as being seen as a fully fledged international. And what I mean by that is I feel like it's people are coming over and enjoying the time over here and seeing it as more of a little bit of an opportunity to get away and see the world, as opposed to you're coming over here to do a job against the English Rugby League team. And I feel like when you see the performances, it sort of suggests that's the case as well. And I saw it in Tonga last year, thought nothing of them at all, didn't really step up. I know that they were having a good time while they were over here and enjoying themselves. But when it comes to the World Cups, it won't be the same. And I think there's some sort of weird mentality at the moment with our international game that it's just not taken seriously enough. And it's an insult to us, looking in at us as an English team with all these great Super League players, where people just rock up and think they can just have a good time while they're here. I want to see a fully fledged international game where they're knocking 10 bells out of each other, a proper rugby league, not this half-hearted attempt at filling a stadium and no real reward for it. It just seems a little bit lost on me at the moment if I'm looking in. It's a shame because I think this England team's a really good quality side.
On that basis, I mean, look, we've seen this with the Challenge Cup. Is this a little bit of rugby shooting itself in the foot? The fact that the international programme has been very badly put together for many, many years. Had we have had Great Britain tours, right the way through the 90s, the early 2000s, and they were still going. I think interest would still be there, but there's been massive lulls throughout. Same with the Challenge Cup, moving it June, September, wherever you're going to put it. As fans and supporters, when you start seeing things move like that and no real formal, this is when it's going to be, it's religious and there you go, it does turn the fans off, doesn't it? I mean, we're seeing that through the turnstiles, aren't we?
Yeah, I feel it does. I just feel like we've lost our way with it, and it was something that we were all passionate about. And I look back, going and watching the Ashes, like I said, at Old Trafford, and watching Mal Meninga steaming down the side there, my dad taking to those games, and that for me was something that I look back on with fond memories. Now I'm in my 40s, and I played a full career, and that's what I look back to. I don't think you get the same feel anymore. I feel like it's just thrown together for the sake of throwing it together. We need to play games, so we've created an international fixture or a couple of fixtures just to keep getting us through and not justify what Sean Wayne's doing, because I'd love Sean Wayne to have more of an opportunity to actually take this England team and do something with him. Almost take him into Australia and say, look, we're coming to you and we're going to give you absolutely everything. I just feel like there's nothing. It's just no. It's a 2-game series, and I just feel like it just lacks any sort of form of recognition, intensity, and value. It just serves as a couple of good friendlies for an England team. That's how it looks for me.
I'm just a bit. I can't believe Earl said that he enjoyed Old Trafford. Ricky Stewart gives me nightmares in an Australian shirt. I don't know about anybody else. I mean, that was my being brought up.
To be fair, I was only about 10 years old, so you'd have been in at least 25, 30, 40.
There you go. There you go.
You remember
there you
go. Of it.
Hey, is that because of the air? Just because you're blessed.
No
just because you're blessed with the band.
No.
I don't know. Unbelievable stuff. But yeah, no, I think that's a massive reason why. I saw it in the press as well. I don't know if you guys had seen it. So I think it might be Sean Wayne talking about the possibility of a touring. I can't remember if it was New Zealand or Australia that he's trying to encourage a touring side. I mean, going back to Winter Rugby League, they were great days, weren't they? When they used to bring the touring sides over and they play a couple of games around the ground and then they go and play the Test series. I mean, they were the glory days, weren't they, of international rugby league?
Well, for me, that is how it should be done. That's just tour rugby. And I mean, you'll hate me for this, but bringing up rugby union, and I'm sorry, I don't want to swear, but the British Lions, that's honestly just that for me is the pinnacle of sport in rugby anyway, rugby terms. John Bentley was my coach at Huddersfield a long time ago, and I was able to watch him playing on the Lions tour. They were playing in all these different suburbs, and then playing South Africa. Sorry, yeah, but obviously there's a few tours over the years, but they're playing in South Africa. But it was just the fact that they went to all these different suburbs, and then they had some battles as well, and they didn't come away unscathed. And then it just creates like an imagination. You just get really deep into it, and you start to follow them, and you start to have this sort of like feeling. It's like it becomes like a Netflix sort of feature, doesn't it? It's you're following them around, and I think that's just what the sport needs. It just needs a little bit of what I'd call meaning, a little bit of meaning to it, because at the moment I feel like we don't have it. And it is a concern, and I know there'll be things in place to try and rectify that. But I think the sport lacks a little bit of that at the moment.
Yeah, he's got a great try in that series as well, John Bentley. One of the greatest tries ever for British Lions.
Yeah, and then I think he got selected for some games as well. And it was all the kangaroo courts and things like that.
Yeah.
It just following the players. But they were all characters, weren't they? And that's what the sport needs, is characters and people watching them.
I think that's where it comes back to the identity of the Great Britain side, because I'm like you. I have fond memories of going down to Wembley, a packed Wembley Stadium, watching the first Test versus Australia. And it just goes to show it can be done. Those fans are all still there, but it's like you say, in terms of it's got to be meaningful matches that actually gets you behind your country. And it does feel, I completely agree with you, Earl, that these feel like warm-up games. It's like we're playing France, or, like we always do, kind of thing, and put a score on them. And that's no disrespect to Samoa, but on the flip side of that, based off last week, it was like a friendly, you know. So
Felt like one as well in the stands, didn't it?
yeah.
Just
But I still remember Jonathan Davis scoring in 1994, I think it was at Wembley.
Yeah.
One of my childhood memories watching Great Britain. And that for me, if we want to ignite the passion in rugby league at an international level, we've got to bring back Great Britain, and we've got to bring back the Ashes series and also New Zealand.
Reformed British coal as well. Just wouldn't seem right to have a British coal, would it? But there you go. Right, we're going to get a couple more questions in, and then we'll bring it to an end from the fans forum. I'm going to kick off this round of questions. Earl, do we bring the biff back or not? I mean, when you see, you know, people grabbing each other's shirts and all that nonsense, I mean, do you think, just bring the biff back, it'll sort itself out quick?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be one of these where I'm not like that. I try to stay out of the way of it, actually, to be honest with you. No, you've got to be very careful these days. The game is changing. The people that are in the game is changing. There's too much on head knocks and concussions, and the game's being sued left, right, and centre. I think we need to protect the game. I know what you're saying, and I get it. I really do get it. I would like to see biff brought back in a different way through big hits. Now, in my day, you was entitled to shoot off the line and whack someone as hard as you can. Now, the game's changed. You don't coach that. You don't coach to shoot off the line and absolutely nail someone because you could create a gap. It's all about percentage plays, getting up together, slowing the play down. The chances are, if you're shooting up, you're going to give away a penalty, you're going to get a yellow card, you're going to create a hole in the defence. So it's to do with the way that we play the game, as opposed to the governing body not allowing the lads to take each other's heads off. I just like to see a little bit more of getting into each other. The problem is these head knocks, these challenges. There seem to be different rules as well when you get to a grand final. The rules go out the window. But for the first 4 or 5 games of the season, it's ridiculously tight. Then it eases a little bit. Then it'll creep back in a little bit. And then at the back end of the season, the playoffs, it's gone. So I think that's where frustration comes for players and also the fans. I'd like to see a little bit more of getting into each other, but I mean in a legal sense. It's just a case of managing it. And I think that's what's difficult for the players these days. It's such high risk.
It's doable. When you look at Tariq Simsit on George Williams, that was probably the hit of the season for me. So it goes to show that we can still have that, impact, massive collision, what we all want to see, but done legally. And I think that was the perfect example of, Tariq did a great job there of how you can do it legally.
Yeah. It's definitely, you can do. There's no doubt about it. It's just getting low enough and in a position that you can absolutely drive through somebody and drill them back.
Technique.
Look, I tell you what, though, Earl, you know what I mean? If these rules had been in play when you were in play, far easier ride with the likes of Barry Mack and Morley, mate. They wouldn't have been those boys wouldn't have been on the pitch for long, would they?
If you see me doing this, it's a bit weird. That's me feeling the half a tooth that I've got left in the back of my mouth because Adrian Morley flying headbutting me from the C defender. And I'd like to say, I've got a lot against him for doing that. I can't remember it. It happened,
he's still picking his teeth out.
I've seen a video for it. I'll tell you what, I'd have probably had less concussions, that is for sure, in the game. The game was different, though. That's how it is. I accept the fact that that's how it was back then, and I had that many whacks around the face and stuff, so I understand it, and I've been in some bad positions, and I mean that, and that was one of them. Moz hit me, his top of his head hit me in the cheek, and his shoulder hit me straight across the chest, and I just got back up, played the ball, played on, and then your brain starts to swell. And that's when I didn't know where I was. I started throwing up. I couldn't find my wife and my children and stuff like that. I didn't know where they were. They weren't even at the game, but I couldn't find them. And then I managed to get home, and I didn't play for a couple of weeks. I was in bed for about a week. I was in a bad place. Yeah. So when people talk about concussions, I've been there, I've been through it, and I know how bad that can be. I know I'm not one of the people on the list. I'm not, going against the governing body. I'm not trying to get money out of Super League for that. I feel like I'm pretty compos mentis most of the time, especially after a drink and warm up a little bit. But you know, it's we have to be really, really careful. I think we need to find ways around making the game safe but enjoyable, because we are losing what makes it so good. And this is these tough, big, strong players that bash 10 bells out of each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, we've been saying that all year, that, you know, the safety of the players is paramount. Of course it is. And as quite rightly Steph said there, you know, it can be done. I mean, absolutely, that Sims hit on Williams was one of the moments of the season. It was wonderful, absolutely textbook tackle, if ever there was one. Right, Rebecca Frey, Super League Raw member. Who was the hardest team you played against? Can you remember a time and an era, the team that you thought this was the toughest?
Yeah, different. I'd have to say different eras. So just 10% battery. We've been on a long time, lads.
Yeah.
So a couple of teams, I've mentioned one of them already, which was the Bradford Bulls team of the early noughties. Very, very tough. I think for me as a 20-year-old lad walking out against those types of players in the middle of the field, like Stuart Field and Jamie Peacock and Joe Vangenham, the list just kept going. The Awesome Foursome, and then Robbie and Henry, and you know, they just churned out all these quality players. Later on, it was Leeds Rhinos. They were different though. They were just hard to handle. I wouldn't have said the most physical. Wigan, I think for me, have always been the tougher side. They just have this ruthlessness about them, a ruthless streak. Especially when Sean O'Loughlin were playing for a number of years. McLaurin, Sam Tompkins, Joel Tompkins, they just seem to, probably more the Maguire days, just at the back end of that, they were brought in this sort of wrestle technique. And I think one of them was called WrestleMania when we played against them, because Nathan Brown went, if they're doing it, we're doing it. Next thing, there's all people in arm locks and all sorts. It was a disgrace of a game. A referee would just give penalties left, right, and centre. But it was brilliant fun. But there, you know, a few different teams. But I would have to say that Bradford team in the early sort of 20s was incredible. Sorry, the early 2000s was incredible. Just I still have nightmares about walking out against them.
So Mark Hill goes in there. What was the hardest loss you ever had as a player, and the hardest loss as a fan?
The hardest loss as a fan was the Challenge Cup a couple of years ago when we lost in the last minute.
Yeah.
I honestly thought, I've been retired 8 years. I thought I go to a lot of games and I don't get too emotionally sort of upset by it. I've played enough games and I've lost enough games. But that ripped my heart out. It was awful, because I honestly thought we could do this. We've actually got this. And then with the last minute of the game, ripped it out. It was absolutely horrible. And I realised at that moment how emotionally invested I still am in this game. Instantly at that moment, and in Huddersfield Giants. So for me, it taught me a lot. It was a lesson I didn't particularly want to learn. And then I'd probably say, on a personal level, playing-wise, I've lost 2 Challenge Cups. I think the one against Warrington was the hardest to take, because we believe we could have won that one. Saints were a bit different. And then we had an injury to Kev Brown within the first 20 minutes of the game, and he did his cruciate, and that just set us going in the wrong direction. And we just knew it. You just felt like it wasn't going to be your day. Lunty got a try disallowed. And I can't remember what the score was. It weren't 24-14 or something like that. I don't think it was miles off. And that, for me, is 2 of the hardest losses. So the biggest games you could have ever played in.
Fair enough. Craig Forth back with us. If you didn't play for Huddersfield, is there anybody else that you'd have wanted to play for? I'm guessing possibly not, but have you ever come close to leaving Huddersfield? There's a different slant on it as well. So one, would you have wanted to have played for anybody else? But if not, did it ever crop up, salary cap, all the rest of it? Was there anybody ever coming for you where it was close?
Yes. I actually signed for another club. Not many people know this, and I don't mind talking about it, so it's part of my life. I nearly went to Warrington. I was very close to signing for them, but at the same time, Saints came in for me. And I signed a contract with Saints because I was being messed about a little bit, which is just the way, the nature of the beast. That's just how sports goes. When you start going into these little battles of how much they want to pay you and how much you think you're worth, and then other clubs come in as well. So you start to look around. Jason Kalis was leaving St Helens, and I signed in replacement of him. And unfortunately, at the time, Jason decided that he was going to take his optional year. So he decided at the last minute to stay on. So that meant I had to find a club for another year and then go to Saints the year after. And I decided, no, you're okay. So that was literally all it took. Huddersfield came back in with a better offer, and the rest is history. I stayed loyal to them, stayed there. But yes, things could have been very, very different. And I was more than happy to do that at that point in time. It would have been a great opportunity. But I'm a home bird. I absolutely love where I'm from, and I don't regret it in the slightest. It was just nice to be able to have that opportunity, which never really arose.
Fair enough. Mark Hill's on a roll. He's on a roll. How heavy was the skip you pushed for Sky? And can we hire you to move some cars that are in our way on the road?
So the skip was a proper skip. So I don't know how heavy they are. It was a big skip. It was, I won't lie to you, filled with polystyrene, but that shouldn't make a difference to a skip. I did push it, but I did have a little bit of assistance from a transit van and a piece of cable. That's genuine, that.
Happy days. Right, here's what, hey, family ties. Do you know what, LG? I'm going to ask it, LG, why not? Ever thought of becoming a wrestler?
No, I haven't thought of it as such, but I did get invited when I retired to go out to Florida. So I went out to the training camp out there, which was absolutely fantastic. They showed me around. There's a lad that I didn't train with as such. I'd had a couple of operations, but I was meant to be training on called Satnam. He was 7'2". He was an Indian basketballer, and you will see him. He's in WWE now. So I was meant to train alongside him. I'd like to think I had the athletic edge. He definitely had the size. He was absolutely humongous. Really, really nice guy. And the bit that put me off is they said they'd love me to go out there, train with him, and potentially look to be a professional wrestler. But it would take me around 5 years to make it to a level where you can see if it was sustainable as a career. Right. That would have taken me to about 40-year-old. I'm like, no, I feel like I've done my bit. I'm okay. So I decided against it. So it was lovely to be invited out there and see Triple H and people like that. It was brilliant. It's eye-opening. How they run the business as well is incredible. So it was an experience I was very, very fortunate to have. But no, I don't have a leotard. I don't have his top part. I don't have anything like that. It's all in attic, actually. But anyway, it don't fit. Tried.
Genuinely, though, because that's interesting. Do you have some of the memorabilia from it?
I've got, no, so I don't have anything like that. That's very hard to get hold of. I've got about 50, I think it's about 50 big 1970s framed, not framed, but some of them are framed, advertisement posters, the genuine ones from the 60s, 70s, 80s. I've got tons of them, the ones with giant haystacks and Mick McManus and stuff. It's got Shirley and Mick McManus and where they were fighting. I've got tons of them. I've collected a few over the years just as something that I wanted to have as a keepsake to keep in my family and the Crabtree name.
Well, everybody's loving your honesty. Everybody's loved you tonight. I'm going to have one last question, and then we're going to call this one. And they've all absolutely loved it, Earl.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful having you on. We could listen to you all night, mate. Absolutely outstanding. But Dawn Baker, another member, a bit out there. But would a rebrand help the Giants like the Lee Leopards have done? So when you get the new stadium, do you think it might be an opportunity to rebrand at that point, or would you keep it Giants?
I don't think we've got much of a brand to rebrand. I think we are the Giants. I'm more than happy with what we are as the Giants. Could that change? Potentially, but I don't think that's the issue. I really don't. I believe now you could add to the brand, and that could be leopard print or whatever you wanted it to be. You could have. It's a perfect opportunity. It's open to your own imagination, interpretation. You can actually get together and sit everyone down and go, right, who are we? What do we want to be? The Giants is just a name. It isn't a brand. We need to create a brand. And I think that is what Don's saying there is we do need to rebrand. And we will do that by going into a new stadium. That will be rebranding in itself. I'm not saying we need to go out and we could just be Huddersfield on its own. We could lose the Giants. Potentially, I'm not privy to that information, unfortunately. I'm not high enough in that pecking order. I'm on a lower chain these days. I'm club ambassador. But I hope that I get the opportunity to speak and listen to what is going on, because I'd love to be a part of the Giants' future, whatever it is. But rebranding, we will rebrand, just in an unusual way. New stadium, new identity, some different values, and a better culture. And I think that will be our rebranding.
Fantastic. I mean, what a night. I mean, this has been the third week in a row we've had a special guest. Let's hope we can make it 4 in a row next week. Earl has been outstanding value. A massive thank you from me to Chris Valentine and to George Valentine, the 2 newest members here at Super League Raw. There's the QR code to become a member. Become a member. We're going right away through the winter. Like I say, those tickets for the Kevin Sinfield in conversation at the Power Hall. Make sure you go over to our Facebook page straight after the show. Find that post. Share it. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube. Put this hashtag you can't beat a bit of weekly in there, and you'll be in the draw on Tuesday for 2 tickets to come and join us at the Kevin Sinfield in conversation with Barry Mack. That's going to be a wonderful night. I'm sure some wonderful stories about that Leeds Rhinos team, and of course the late great legend that is Sir Rob Burrow. I'm sure that's going to be an emotional occasion for us all on the night. You want to be a part of that. So 2 free tickets. That's what Super League Raw is all about. Make sure you do that. And of course, don't forget, you can also come along to the Bluebell for our first ever live. We're hopefully going to be going on the road this year. Lee, Huddersfield. We've got big ambitions to get up to Hull KR as well. Let's hope that happens as we go through the season. On behalf of Steph and Joel, myself and Greg, who's not here, Earl, you're top bloke, mate. Really, really enjoyed your company tonight, mate.
It's been an absolute pleasure, but thank you, lads, as well. What you're doing for the sport, what you're doing for yourselves as well, Rugby League. We need people like you, and we need you guys to grow. So also to your fans and everybody that's been watching, thank you for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm already looking forward to the next one.
Good man, there you go. We always ask, would you come again? And there you go, he's beat me to it. He wants to come again. That's what it's all about. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy International Rugby League this coming Saturday, the last, of course, that we're going to see until the brand new season kicks off, but we'll keep you going throughout the winter with brilliant Rugby League content. On behalf of us all on screen, make sure you join us on Tuesday, because Steph, it's your line, mate.
Well, you can't be a better Friday weekly.
You can't beat a bit of Tuesday weekly either. We'll be back for our normal time, 8 p.m. Tuesday. Enjoy your Rugby League this weekend. And again, Earl, many, many thanks. All the best, everyone. Bye for now.